it's Solbin again, and today we'll be covering the second session of Business Management Paper 1. So today we'll be focusing mainly on applications and analysis of knowledge and understanding, and these are your 2 to 6 mark questions that require you to do applications, unlike last week where we only simply gave definitions or statements. This week, the key point is application and analysis. So this is when your understanding of the case study really kicks in. And the key point all these questions head towards is whether you know how to break down your knowledge of the business management content into simpler parts and see how each other relate in terms of their application within the case study. So, just like last week, we'll go straight into the command words and the marks each of the words give for you. Command words would be things that should ring a bell inside your head as soon as you see them. As soon as you see explain, you should be like, okay, that's an application question and I need to give one explanation regarding the case study as well as whatever is asked in the question itself. Explain is usually used the most, and you just simply have to apply it to the case study. Analyze is when you have to break down a part of a case study. So analyze the leadership style of Pekka. You're gonna have to find out the leadership style of Pekka, whereas where it says explain the decision of PST becoming a private limited company, this is when you think of the advantages and disadvantages of a private limited company. So analyze, interpret, apply. No, analyze and interpret both have a slight half step before you write an answer, where you have to think about the case study and analyze it yourself, as in you have to find out the answer within the case study before you bring in your content knowledge, whereas explain, then whatever you're explaining is going to be explicitly written in the case study. Thankfully, explain is being used the most in our papers, so it's rare that you're ever going to see apply or interpret in any of your papers. But if you do, it shouldn't be too bad. If it says comment, this is the only situation in a 2 to 4 mark question, 4 to 6 mark question, where you have to say whether this decision or the situation is good or bad. Well then, it doesn't require you to make a judgment or a decision. Okay? You simply say that this is a very dangerous situation for this case study. Or this case study, this business is at a very positive state. That's all that's required of a comment question. Suggest as well, just suggest a possible outcome or a possible solution, but then you don't have to explain it. You don't have to explain why that's a better answer. Okay, demonstrate means show, so you just have to show that you know stuff. Distinguish, the key point of distinguish, unlike all the other ones, is that you have to tell us the differences. Okay, so if it says distinguish between a private limited and a public limited, we have to not just state the characteristics of the two and say the disadvantages and advantages of the two, but we also have to mention how they're different. And that's the key point. That's the extra mark you get in distinguish, unlike other command terms. So these are some very important notes to take for 4 to 6 mark questions under the command words we've just seen. Okay, first, application is key. I'll say that again, application is key. If you don't apply whatever your knowledge is to the case study, if you don't make your answer specific to P&S Trawlers, you're gonna lose half of your marks. Only the first half of it is given or rewarded by stating the content you already know. Okay, but unlike like 6 marks or 10 mark or even 20 mark answer questions, we don't have to give judgments or recommendations. So we don't have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages, we simply have to explain it. We don't have to say which one's a better outcome, a better solution for the case study. We don't have to tell the examiners what we think about it, or we don't even have to give a definition. If it says, explain how PST would work as a private limited company, we don't have to be like, a private limited company is a company in which, and so on. You just go straight into advantages and how these look like in PS Trawlers, and disadvantages and how that looks like in P&S Trawlers. So these are 4 things that we don't need, and the 2 things that we must have is a statement and an application. Most common 4-mark questions are explain the advantages, or explain the disadvantages, or explain just a term in general. You have to give us a statement, what it is, what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage, application, how that looks like in P&S Trawlers. So if it's 2-mark question, the first mark would be for stating your answer, 2nd mark for explaining why that's relevant or applicable to the case study. If it's 4 marks in total, you're going to do 2 sets of these. This is very similar to the describe question that we had last week. And an easy transition to an application if you're unsure about whether you've structured your answer correctly is using this means. So first sentence, full stop, this means, and then that's going to be, the next part after this means is going to be your application. So now we'll go straight into example questions and answers. Explain 2 disadvantages of outsourcing to P&S Trawlers. Okay. First it used explain, so we know that it's going to be a statement and application type of question. It says 2 disadvantages. We're going to give 2 disadvantages of outsourcing, but then we have to make it very tied into the situation that P&S Trawler is in. So the 2 specific thing that P&S Trawler outsources is human resource and the finance sector. Of all the administration, it's pretty much a core part of the business that P&S is outsourcing. And considering that, taking that into account, you want to give 2 a disadvantage. So it's less likely for you to say you have less control, because if HR and finance is a main part of P&S, it's unlikely for them to have no control over, even if they did have outsourced it. Or you can also look at it in a different point of view and be like, it's very, very dangerous for a business to make some external business be in charge of who we are recruiting, because P&S Trawlers is a very family-like business, and it requires a lot of teamwork and loyalty. So the type of people that they are hiring is extremely important, and the fact that they're outsourcing this might be more crucial because they are a P&S Trawlers, not because it would, whereas it wouldn't be if it was for other businesses. So an example answer could be, outsourcing would mean loss of jobs within the P&S Trawlers. This may lead to unfair dismissals, causing loss of trust from employees, which may be fatal as teamwork is essential to P&S Trawlers. So, if P&S Trawlers considers more outsourcing, this means less people people already working in the HR sector of the P&S Trawlers are going to lose their jobs because they're going to outsource that part of the business to an external business. Yeah. And then, so in that first paragraph, outsourcing would mean loss of jobs within the P&S Trawlers would be your statement. Outsourcing usually leads to less jobs within the business, more jobs created outside the business. And then this is an application. It's more detrimental, it's more fatal to P&S because we are a small business, a family-like business. If it was a big business like McDonald's, you could be like, this would increase efficiency because McDonald's can focus on their core activities, core business activities, which is not the case for P&S Trawlers because they are a small business. And the second point could be, it could cost extra to have close monitoring. Okay. So furthermore, extra cost and effort have to be spent on close monitoring to maintain quality because P&S are outsourcing some of the main parts of the business. So if you've read your case study and understood it, it clearly tells you that it outsources some of the core functions of the business. This means the business, P&S Trawlers, is gonna need more attention, more monitoring, more close monitoring over what the external business is doing. If it's just a telephone, if they're just outsourcing a customer service company where they pick up complaints from customers, we're gonna be like, okay, they're much more pro than we are, so we'll leave it up to them, and they could monitor less. But if it's like I said, finance, it's closely related to our income, and the way they operate is going to impact our profit and income. So P&S Trawlers are gonna need to monitor their process, their working much strictly than if it was other functions. So these two explanations after your statement really show that you've understood the business case study. Also, this is required, the application to the case study, making sure that you let the examiners know that you fully understood the situation of the case study is where you get your second mark. So in blue is your first mark and green is your second mark, and because it's 4 marks in total, you would need 2 points and 2 applications. Yeah. Another very similar question, explain the advantages. Okay. Of P&S Trawlers becoming a private limited company. If you look at the very beginning of your case study, it says their parents decided to convert to a private limited company as the government's changed regulations. This was because, the main reason for this was because converting to a private limited company allows them to have unlimited liability. I lied. Limited liability. Yeah. And you have to show this knowledge that the reason to why P&S Trawlers converted to private limited was because of the liability problem. And the fact that you know this and showing that you know this would be a great way to earn your application mark, because it shows that you know the case study and you know the idea of private limited company and how it applies to the case study you read. Okay. So an example answer could look like, more finance could be raised in comparison to sole traders and partnerships. One thing, and like I said just now, owners have limited liability, so can lose only up to the sum of their investment. Okay, these are 2 just normal, very basic characteristics and advantages of private limited company. Now the second sentence is going to be more specific to the case study and how this advantage applies within P&S Trawlers. So more finance being raised or able to be raised. To P&S, this would mean they can find more methods to grow, because Pekka and Tapio wanted to grow at the end of the case study, didn't they? Tapio wanted to build a new shop. That means they have to find a new building, get enough capital to pay more rent, things like that. Or Pekka wanted to find more upgraded versions of the trawlers that foreign businesses use. Anyhow, they need more capital, they need to raise more money. And if they are a sole trader or a partnership, they can't do that. By changing it to a private limited company, it has allowed them to raise more funds, more finance, and hence be able to grow and expand. This gives you the application mark because the case study said they want to grow and expand. If it said, oh, it's a business that's way too big and it's looking to become smaller, the fact that they could raise more funds would be beneficial in a different way. Okay. It would be beneficial for the case study, maybe in terms of being able to pay their workers better instead of being able to grow. Yeah. Similarly, limited liability. Why is that so important for P&S Trawlers? Because all of the shares are only shared between the family. So the brother and the sister Pekka and Tapio has 40% of the shares each. The rest of the shares are owned by their parents. So if this business fails, the whole family is gonna go bankrupt. And if they have unlimited liability, each one of them is gonna end up with a whole load of debt. That's why the fact that owners have limited liability is so much more better, is so much more safer, and such a big advantage for P&S Trawlers because shares are only owned by the family. Yeah. So just like the question above, the text in blue are your statement marks, and the text in green are your application marks. Now we have a distinguished type of question. Most of the questions are gonna look like the explain ones. If it says analyze advantages, you do the same thing. If it says interpret P&S Trawlers as being a private limited company, you're gonna do exactly the same. But distinguish, as you see, it's a 6 mark, so you have a slight extra step to take. And it says distinguish between the leadership styles of Pekka and Tapio. So as soon as we see 6 marks and Pekka and Tapio, we have 2 leaders, so it's going to be 3 marks each. Okay. First mark goes into identifying the leadership styles and telling us what that is. Explain the leadership styles referring to the case study. So what kind of leader is Pekka? Can you explain that referring to the text? Where do we see that leadership style in the case study we've read? And then the third mark would be what are the differences? How is Pekka and Tapio different? And why does that make them different leaders, different types of leaders? I haven't written an example answer for you for this one so that you can have a go at thinking it through in your mind. But this is a basic structure of how your answer would look like. Instead, you will do 2 of them, one for Pekka and one for Tapio. Okay, so you would say something like, Pekka is an autocratic leader. Yeah, because it says Pekka is strict with all aspects of the management in the case study, and that's going to be your application point. And then also be like, this is because there is they cannot risk, or teamwork is essential, anything the case study said. And then you'd be like, unlike Tapio, Pekka doesn't allow delegation, or Pekka doesn't allow their crew members or workers to suggest ideas. Instead, they require them to follow a strict set of rules so that no process goes unmonitored by Pekka or uncontrolled by Pekka. On the other hand, Tapio is a laissez-faire type of a leader, and we can see that when she, through the fact that she encourages delegation, encourages creativity among staff. And then you can be like, this is something we don't see in Pekka, because Tapio works with administration people. They are people that work on desks, whereas Pekka works with people on the ships. So you can be like, this is because Tapio is working in a more calmer environment where people are not put at where the lives of individual workers are not put at risk in their work. Things like that. So that's going to be a basic structure of a distinguished type of question. The key point of your third mark is telling us the differences. and then 2 to 3 marks on application. So identify, state leaders, tell me where it is in the case study that you see it, and how are they different. Take some time to process that. And then, now we have how to study for these kind of application questions. So unlike questions that require your demonstration of knowledge and understanding, application is seeing if you know how to see the content, the business content in the world around you. So just like I said, the fact that, or maybe high pay or high income, more finance could be more attractive to businesses like P&S Trawlers, but it might not be as attractive to huge companies like Coca-Cola. Maybe they would prefer better skilled workers than more finance. Yeah. Every advantage, every disadvantage, every characteristics apply differently to different businesses. Okay. So this is how you would study. You would first look at the characteristics and definitions and how it will look like in different businesses. So labor turnover, let's look at that. It's how quickly workers change, how long they stay, how quickly they leave, how quickly they're filled again. How does that look in a small clothes store? Okay, this could mean low labor turnover in a small clothes shop. May mean that each staff could build a personal relationship with their customers and maybe perhaps build a friendship. Because if one staff in this one shop works for like 5 years, they're gonna build friendship with the neighborhood, and the neighbors are more likely to come over to this little shop, aren't they? So low labor turnover is extremely attractive to that little shop. But if we are a big McDonald's business that's a franchised branch, it's unlikely that building a friendship with your McDonald's customer is going to be a huge attractive option for the business. So see how it looks like in different businesses, and as you study advantages, as well as memorizing them, think about which businesses, which countries, what kind of economies would really want these advantages, and what kind of businesses, countries, or economies wouldn't consider this as that much of an advantage. Okay. So maybe it's a country lacking water, and saving or recycling water stuff or filtering water in a business might be a very good unique selling point, whereas in some other countries where they've got tons and tons of clean water, it might not be a big unique selling point, but it's still an advantage. How much an advantage it is different for every business, and this is what you'll be considering as you study. Same for disadvantages. Some are more detrimental, more fatal to some businesses than others. Like exchange rates. One USD that used to be, I don't know, 0.8 British pounds becoming 1 British pound is gonna create lots of different impacts. For bigger businesses, it might be a smaller impact. For smaller businesses, it might be a big impact. Or it might be the other way around. Things like that. So the key way to study is looking at it in different contexts. Looking at whatever you're studying in different contexts. Large or small businesses with their products in different phases of the product life cycle, or businesses in different cultures operate on a different structure. Not included in this is also the economy, governmental legislations, environmental weather, climate, and make sure you practice thinking of that in terms of PST if you want to do well for your case study. So the last sentence says, practice thinking of all of these in terms of PST as you study and compare how these will apply differently for other businesses in different circumstances. Okay, so I think I've explained it enough, but make sure whatever you read, you keep thinking of them as factors that impact businesses and how they impact the business differently. Okay. Now we're going to do some case study analysis. Okay. Now that we've done all the command terms and we know exactly what to be writing for what type of questions, we have to know more about the business to be able to write our answers. The fact that we know how to write our answers may not be enough if we don't have a clear understanding of the case study. So we'll go through that now. First, we'll do a SWOT analysis. I've already asked you to do a summary, so you should have a pretty okay overview of it, but then a SWOT analysis, as the name says, it's an analysis. It gives you a more in-depth, I'll stop rapping. It gives you a more in-depth understanding of the case study. And you already know the strengths and weaknesses are the internal characteristics of a business. Opportunities and threats are the external factors of a business. Students often get strengths and opportunities mixed up, weaknesses and threats mixed up. That just screws everything up. So first we have strengths. Like I said, these are the positive internal characteristics. The first two words are there are key, and we'll go through that. So if we have our case study opened, our very first paragraph talks about just a characteristic of how P&S Trawler is in general. And then in line 5 it says, at times the family business P&S Trawlers flourished with good catches of fish and strong market prices. Other times it struggled. A low point of the business occurred 5 years ago when one of their trawlers sank in a terrible storm. So, often the business is at a very good stance. It has good catches of fish, and usually it has a strong market. So that would be a strength. In the next paragraph, we see that they've decided to change to a private limited company. This means limited liability for shareholders within the family. This is another strength. This means they have less financial risk and make more bold decisions because they know that they can only lose up to the sum of their investments. And then at the end of the second paragraph, we see that Pekka and his sister each own 40%, and the dad and the mom, the parents, owns the remaining 20%. So the shares are only held by the family, which implies that they have very tight control over the business. So that will be our third strength. They have very tight control. The family has tight control over the business functions, administrations. Okay, and then our third paragraph, as we see, Finland is a country with a beautiful coastline. As soon as we see that, we'll be like, okay, these are all the external factors, because it's going to talk about Finland in general and all the governmental issues and things like that. So these two paragraphs are all the external factors. We'll skip through that for now. And then next, they talk about the positive factors of PST. This is where most of our strengths are. Strengths are only internal characteristics, so bear that in mind as we go through the strengths. First one, the family has a strong determination. Yes, its determination is from the family, so that's a strength. They had careful management of money. Okay, so PST has a very organized, planned structure of how they use their money. A great strength. The workforce is loyal and hardworking. Another strength, because it's the characteristics of the employees which are also within the business. They use the latest technology. Nice, that's another strength. For many reasons, people are switching from eating meat to eating fish. These people are outside the business, so that wouldn't be a strength. Instead, that would be an opportunity. Okay, so we'll leave that out for our opportunity analysis. Labor turnover is low, that's another strength. Government, if a government's involved, it's an external involvement, so that's not a strength. And then on our second page, we have, on our second paragraph, on our second page, that we have a friendly working environment and there's good training and discipline. Friendly working environment, good training and discipline. That's another factor of the business internally, so that's a strength. And then Pekka has excellent working relationship with his crews. So the fact that the managers and the employees have a very positive relationship is probably one of the reasons, one of the factors to the low labor turnover. Another strength of a business. And they pay good salaries to crew members and receive generous bonus for good catches. Payment, bonuses, all of these are financial rewards. So PST has very positive, good financial rewards that motivate their crews, their workers. At the end of the second page, we have Tapio, and she encourages new ideas, alternative ways of working, and delegates tasks whenever opportunities arise. So, they encourage staff involvement, which boosts staff morale and motivation. And overall, this is also another plus, another strength of the business. Both Pekka and Tapio operate on a different kind of leadership style, but both of them have a very positive relation with their workers, employees, and hence create a positive impact to the business in general. Now we have the third page, and the first talks about all the people they sell fishes to. It's hotels, restaurants, fish shops, local residents, the biggest supermarkets, agents overseas. Just the fact that they have so many people they're selling to and so many distribution channels is also a plus, because if one of them fails, well, they've got other distribution channels to rely on. Okay. At the moment, the overseas markets is the one that's kind of failing them, but then it won't impact them as much as other fishing industries because they have other agents and distribution channels, customers to rely their profit on. Okay, so another one was they have many distribution channels in which their profit and income rely on. And then the last bit is improving navigation and the chances of good fish catches, improved technologies. So how they have good technology that allows them to catch the fish they want to catch, be able to navigate and locate the fish they want to catch, overall improving the efficiency of the business. Improved materials for nets. Materials have also been improved, which reduces time for repair, and this means less time spent on fixing, more time spent on fishing. Another strength. Okay, so these were all the strengths of P&S Trawlers. All that. And all that. If you've been lazy and haven't been listening to me, maybe look at the slides. Oh, I missed that out. They have annual training of health and safety. So Pekka goes through a regular training every 6 months, I think it was. Oh yeah, they have good high discipline, and they have trainings every now and then, annually for training health and safety, and they have additional training sessions within the trawler as well, and an induction training for the whole staff. So they have many types of training that keeps them healthy, keeps them safe, and then so that they are aware of the health issues, hazards within the working atmosphere. Now we'll look at weaknesses. And again, these are negative internal characteristics. The case study overall talks mostly about the internal factors, less about the external factors. So the strengths might have been a little overwhelming. Good news, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are going to be much less. Okay. So, first page, nope, it doesn't talk about any weakness. Let's look at the second page. The second paragraph says, the work on trawlers can be dangerous. Fishing, it's a fishing industry and they go out on ships. And the work that's done on ships, just the nature of the work itself, could be very dangerous. And this is a weakness of fishing industry. And then Pekka is strict with all aspects of the management. We could say this is a weakness because she really doesn't allow much room for freedom. If we look at how she operates, she has she monitors everything. She knows everything. Everything is under her control, which could possibly lead to dissatisfied workers or crew members if their views are different to Pekka's and they think, or if they think that Pekka is wrong by any chance. So a strong character is always a weakness of a business. Even like a very, very chill character could be a weakness of a business because they don't have a tight control or an organized structure of work. And then fishing trips are very impacted by climate. But if you say that's a weakness, well, that's a wrong point because climate's an external factor. But a weakness from that is that fishing trips may take longer than planned and crews will expect time off between trips. So it's the fishing trips, scheduling them is very unpredictable, and yes, workers might have to spend more time out on boats than they expected themselves to. Also, Tapio is concerned that additional costs would be involved in employing women. Finland, it talks about it in the case study, really promotes gender equality. And it says the P&S Trawlers really operates on a full male employment structure. But if there are female participants, they have to hire them. Thus, this would mean additional costs. They don't have that yet. They don't have female workers yet. So they don't have the female toilets or the female rooms. But if they do have more employers, if they do have female applicants, that's going to be a weakness. They're going to have to start investing more in those kind of facilities so that female applicants' needs could be met. And then there we have one of the sales, Presto. Sales to Presto are fixed price, usually lower than the market price. This means a fish I usually catch, the market price of it is like $3. But I've already signed a contract to sell it to Presto less than $3, maybe 2.5. This could be a weakness because most of our income, although we do sell the most to Presto, it's going to generate a little less income than other channels. And line 100, major items of expenditure for PST include fuel for trawler, salary, rent, and office buildings and the warehouse, which if we see in the appendix will increase. So a lot of expenditure is being paid, like fixed. There's a lot of expenditure is being spent. And alongside that, if we look at their payments and their timings of the payments, rent is paid 1 month in advance, while local customers pay their orders immediately. Restaurant, hotel, fish shops have 1 month credit. So we're paying our rents 1 month in advance, and we're selling our fishes, but our customers can pay them 1 month late. So if we don't get this timing right, we have this middle season where we have no cash, which could be very dangerous for the business. Okay, but the fuels and salaries are paid at the end of each month. So we have a large amount being paid at the beginning of the month, a large amount being paid at the end of the month, and customers paying us whenever they want to, even after they bought the product. So this could be a weakness because it's going to be very hard to financially control what money comes in and what money comes out and when they do. Okay, so it might generate cash flow problems. And lastly, if we look at the appendix, look at the sales, it's been decreasing. What a weakness. Net profit margin as well. Wow, what a drop. And then we're running on zero cash. Those are some weaknesses. A zero cash means they have very low current assets. So if they suddenly have to make a payment, they have to sell one of their stocks, I don't know, their machines. Yeah. Which could be a weakness because this means this lets PST be at a more vulnerable situation where if unexpected payments have to come, it's going to be very difficult for them to deal with. Okay, so these are a summary of the weaknesses. Opportunities. Opportunities are external factors that may impact the business positively. So at the beginning, we had a lot of these. Okay, Finland has a very beautiful coastline. So this could be a potential. If they're gonna develop a new market, they could develop the tourist market. Okay. These are some good stuff about the country that may potentially benefit, or the PST could use to their advantage. And a lot of tourist visits. Okay, so currently we're targeting the local market and the local hotels. Maybe we could also sell stuff to the tourists. Use our fish to make fish and chips. Nope. Things like that. Technology is improving. Technology is the third largest industry and it's growing rapidly. So this is something that PST can also take into their advantage, apply it within their business as well. Use that technology to win over overseas competitors. And Finland exports large quantities of fish each year. So if the country is just normally generating a lot of fish and selling it to different countries, it's easier for PST to be a part of that large industry and large selling. And like we said below here, the two things we missed out on. They skipped out for strengths. For many reasons, people are switching from eating meat to eating fish. This is just a change in social trend. So we could word that as a social trend benefiting or potentially advantaging PST. Government supports ethically managed fishing businesses. And if we see at the beginning, PST is being very ethical with how much they fish, being very careful that they don't overfish. So the fact that governments provide help, support for those kind of businesses could be a great opportunity for PST. Yeah. So these are some external positive factors that surrounds PST. Lastly, we have threats, negative external characteristics. These would be things that is absolutely outside of PST's control. Opportunities are outside of PST that they could potentially grasp or use to their advantage. Threats, they can't do anything much about it other than try and avoid it as much as possible. So some examples of this would be, first, the fact that government regulations are becoming more and more strict. So greater government regulations in the industry in line 12. Similar point in line 20, government imposing fishing quotas. More regulation means rules. Fishing quotas means the number of fishes you can fish. It's slightly different. And then continuing on from that, our fourth paragraph is just filled with the government restrictions on fishing industries. And all of these are slightly different. We could group them into one point and be like strict government regulations, but in more detail, there are differences in between them. So first, there's restrictions on size and types of fish. Whereas before they could fish any fish and just sell them. Now we have to choose the type of fish we're fishing because some of them are not allowed to be fished. And then there are also quotas on weights of catches. So not only are the types being monitored, but how heavy are the fishes are also being monitored. And then on top of that, we've had trade agreements with other countries that allowed foreign trawlers to catch more fish than previously allowed. So we're fishing less, and more external fishers are coming in to fish our fish, which is a big threat, and we can't do anything about it because that's a decision made by the government. And these fishers that come in from other countries externally are illegally overfishing. If they're overfishing, not only are they harming my environment, but that's not a very bad factor for us. The main thing is that they have so much more fish, and so much more fish are on the market that the market prices are decreasing. If a total of 30 fish is catched within the country, one fish might cost $2, yeah? But if we illegally overfish and there's suddenly 60 fishes being sold in the market, the price of individual fish is going to decrease because they are less rare. They're less special. So the price of fish might decrease from $2 to $1. Okay? That means much less income for the PST business, doesn't it? So the businesses that overfish are reducing market prices and further reducing PST's ability to earn a reasonable income. And then, on top of that, some other businesses unrelated to the fishing industry is walking into Finland, and these are technology businesses that are relocating, paying higher and stable wages. So it's gonna attract our employees away, or attract our potential applicants away. Yep. But at the moment, this is okay for PST because they've got loyal workers and a low labor turnover. So it is okay for PST at the moment, but it's gonna change the type of applicants. So it's gonna reduce our choices, reduce our number of choices. Okay. And then another thing, Finland's best fishing waters are far away. So trawlers are often at sea for several days. Wherever they are, they have to travel quite a long while to get to the best fishing waters. The fact that this location is far might be a threat to them because it's gonna tire the workers. It's gonna be tiring for them to travel long hours, long days, long distances, and this also means more fuel is being used, more days are being spent out, so workers are being paid for traveling on the boat, whereas it would be more efficient for them to be paid for fishing. Also, weather's unpredictable. Like I said last time, the weather is something we can't control, hence being a threat. The unpredictability of it, and thus scheduling becomes very difficult. Because if it rains, we can't go out, but then we don't clearly know when it's gonna rain, so we only know our schedule maybe 1 week closer to the time. Damaged items can take up to several days to repair. We have no control over that, do we? So Pekka wants to get better equipment, improved equipment to reduce that time. But yeah. and it can take up to 2 weeks to be delivered. So replacements, whoever's replacing it is taking long to deliver it, and whatever is broken takes ages to fix again. Lastly, market price is subject to fluctuations. If other businesses fish better, fish more, market prices will decrease. If some boats find it harder to find fishes that we are more easily finding, these fishes are going to be more expensive. So, because the market price is always fluctuating, it's very difficult to estimate an income or have a stable income. And the real last point is the new trade agreements between countries, new trade arrangements between countries will make selling overseas more difficult. Like I said before, selling to agents in an overseas market is one of the distribution channels of PST, in which they rely for their income. The fact that this is going to become more difficult means one pathway where they generate profit is going to close down or become more narrow, which is a threat, a definite threat to the business. So overall, a summary of our threats would be that. Make sure you have all the things we've gone through highlighted, because that's going to be your homework. We've already done the SWOT analysis in the same way, steeple you can do yourself. Just do it like we've done now, and then, yeah, just read it. Okay. So that's all I have for session 2. And next week we're going to come back with discussion questions that require judgment making and recommendation giving. And these are going to have a different structure to the one we have today. Yes. So I'll see you next week.